the haunting prom night. It happened during my senior year in high school, on the most anticipated night of our teenage lives. Prom night. What was supposed to be a night of glamour, fun, and unforgettable memories turned into a horrifying experience that still haunts my dreams. Prom night was everything we had dreamed of. The ballroom was elegantly decorated, and the excitement in the air was palpable. My date, Emily, looked stunning in her flowing dress, and I felt like the luckiest guy in the world. Our school had chosen a unique venue for prom, an old grand mansion located on the outskirts of town. The place had a reputation for being haunted, but we brushed off the rumors, thinking they were just local legends meant to spook newcomers. As the night went on, strange things began to happen. The temperature in the ballroom dropped dramatically, and a cold breeze swept through the room. Some of the decorations swayed, and a chandelier above the dance floor swung erratically. At first, we attributed these occurrences to an old, drafty mansion. But when the music stopped abruptly and the lights flickered, a hushed panic swept through the room. People nervously whispered about the mansion's ghostly past. In the midst of the chaos, Emily and I decided to explore the mansion, to get away from the commotion. We climbed a grand winding staircase and found ourselves in a dimly lit hallway. As we walked, we heard the faint strains of a waltz, and an eerie, ethereal light illuminated the corridor. To our horror, we encountered a couple dressed in vintage attire, dancing as though they were unaware of our presence. Their eyes were empty, and they paid no attention to us. They seemed like apparitions from a bygone era. Panicked and terrified, Emily and I turned and fled from the haunted couple. We ran down the staircase and back into the ballroom, only to find that the music had resumed, and the lights were back to normal. We tried to explain our experience to our friends, but they dispersed it as a result of nerves and an overactive imagination. Later, as we looked through the photos taken that night, we discovered something chilling. In the background of one of the pictures, there was the ghostly image of the phantom couple, waltzing in the dimly lit hallway, their hollow eyes fixed on us. The prom night that was meant to be a magical and unforgettable experience became a night we'd never forget for all the wrong reasons. The prom night nightmare. I was 17 years old, and I was so excited for prom. I had the perfect dress, the perfect date, and I was ready to have a night to remember. The night started off great. We danced and laughed all night long. But then, something happened that changed everything. I was dancing with my date when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around and saw a man standing behind me. He was tall and thin, with long, greasy hair. He was wearing a black suit and a tie. "Can I cut in?" he asked. I was hesitant, but I didn't want to be rude. I said yes, and he stepped in between me and my date. We started to dance, but something was off. The man was dancing too close to me, and he was whispering things in my ear. I couldn't understand what he was saying, but it made me feel uncomfortable. I tried to pull away, but he held me tight. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. He dragged me off the dance floor and into the hallway. I tried to fight back, but he was too strong. He pulled me into a classroom and slammed the door shut. He cornered me against the wall and started to kiss me. I tried to turn my head away, but he held me tight. He was breathing heavily, and his eyes were wild. I knew I was in trouble. He started to unbutton my dress, and I knew I had to do something. I bit him as hard as I could on the arm. He let out a roar of pain and let me go. I ran out of the classroom and into the hallway. I could hear him chasing after me. I ran as fast as I could, but he was gaining on me. I turned a corner and saw a door at the end of the hallway. I slammed the door open and ran inside. I looked around and saw that I was in the bathroom. I locked the door behind me and leaned against it, catching my breath. I could hear the man banging on the door, but he couldn't get in. I was safe. I sat down on the floor and started to cry. I couldn't believe what had just happened. A few minutes later, I heard the doorknob turn. I jumped up and ran to the back of the bathroom. I hid behind the shower curtain. The door opened, and the man came in. He looked around, but he couldn't see me. He left the bathroom and closed the door behind him. I waited a few minutes before I came out of hiding. I unlocked the door and ran out of the bathroom. I ran back to the dance floor and found my date. I told him what had happened, and he took me home. I never saw the man again, but I'll never forget what happened that night. It was the scariest night of my life, and it was all too real. The cursed prom date. Prom night was just around the corner, and I was thrilled when I got asked to be Jenny's date. She was the most popular girl in school, and I couldn't believe my luck. We spent weeks planning our outfits and looking forward to a night that was supposed to be perfect. A week before the big night, Jenny received a mysterious invitation in the mail. It was an elegant, old-fashioned envelope with a wax seal. Inside was a beautiful, handwritten note inviting us to an exclusive after-party at a mansion located deep in the woods, the exact location undisclosed. We didn't think much of it at the time. We're simply excited to be part of an exclusive event. The night of prom arrived, and we danced, laughed, and made wonderful memories with our friends. As the night was winding down, we received a map to the mysterious mansion's location from a fellow classmate. Following the map, Jenny and I ventured into the woods, clutching a single lantern to guide us through the darkness. It felt like something out of a fairy tale. After what seemed like hours of walking through the dense forest, we stumbled upon the mansion, hidden behind thick foliage. It was a sprawling, eerie place with overgrown gardens, and the windows were eerily dark. Music echoed from within, and we hesitated but decided to enter. Inside, the mansion was filled with people in elaborate masks and costumes. There was an unsettling air of extravagance, and guests whispered behind their masks. The atmosphere was charged with an otherworldly energy, and the drinks tasted strange, almost like nothing I'd ever had before. Jenny and I danced the night away. But as the hours passed, we noticed something peculiar. The guests seemed to dance with a wild and desperate intensity. Their eyes were vacant, and their laughter became more and more manic. As we danced, I had an overwhelming feeling that something was terribly wrong. I turned to Jenny, and it was then that I saw her face. Her expression was twisted, and her eyes were empty, like she was possessed. I grabbed her arm, trying to snap her out of it, but she screamed, and the guests turned to look at us. We ran, and as we fled the mansion, I glanced back to see that the mansion itself seemed to be crumbling, its grandeur replaced by decay and darkness. Jenny and I managed to escape, but she had no memory of what had happened inside the mansion. We never found out who sent the mysterious invitation or what truly transpired that night. The mansion disappeared, and no one else seemed to know about it. To this day, we're left with chilling memories of a prom night that turned into a nightmare. Prom night is supposed to be a magical experience, but ours turned into something out of a horror movie. Who sent the invitation? What kind of place had we stumbled into? It's a mystery that still haunts us. a night we'll never truly understand.